What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lassercast, where me and my good friend Danny Torkel, Dr. Zayas God, discuss horror movies and streaming shows. He's finishing up his pasta over there, and we just finished up Welcome to Derry, episode 4, which I know in our last review we had said that episode 3 was maybe the weakest out of the three. I got a feeling that Danny is going to say that this episode was a return to form. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Ah, uh, I I kind of felt in the middle. We're 4 episodes in now, and I kind of felt like I needed a little bit more. This kind of felt like episodes 1 and 2 continued. Um, I was very happy that I was dead on balls accurate about um what Mr. Hanlon was not Hanlon, what Ronnie's father was covering up, um, because in a racist community in the early '60s, what's the worst thing a black man can do? Not kill children. It's be with a white woman. So yeah, I was happy that I was right about that, and I look forward to seeing the reveal. There as more like truth comes out. Um,
Right.
I started to notice there were a couple things in this episode like that I really liked, but then there were a few things that I kind of noticed for the first time, and like, oh, I'll give you just one real quick one. There is a absolutely disgusting, crazy set piece in this episode involving um Lily's friend at school, and it was like super disturbing and super gross, and everybody witnesses like the aftermath of what happened. And then the next scene is just the kid in bed. And I was just like, oh, he's calmly laying down to go to sleep after witnessing such a horrible, traumatic incident at school involving a friend of his. Like, it feels like that should be something like I felt like we missed the scene where he's like telling his parents, or like his parents are finding out about the terrible incident that happened at school.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, I thought that they did a bad job this week with Leroy, who the whole character beat of Leroy is he can't feel fear. And I thought
Yeah.
he showed a lot of fear in this episode, which I
Okay.
which I thought violated like the rules that they had set up for that character. Like, he is afraid, he hears like his son struggling in the water, and he like drops everything to run back with like a scared like scared dad look on his face of like, oh god, my kid is in danger.
Yeah.
um when when his son sees Pennywise outside the window, he runs outside into the street in a very, what I thought was a very uncharacteristic move for that character in every sense of the way. He acted, I thought, like he like approached his son with like again a look of like scared dad, like what's going on with my kid. And then like this is a guy who's supposed to be like a very cool, calm military guy who goes after, like he says things to his wife about, you're the reason we couldn't be in that town anymore because you keep stirring up all this trouble. And then, like again, as a black man in the in a racist area, he like runs out into the middle of the street screaming at the neighbors, and I thought
Yeah.
that was very uncharacteristic for him. And I guess it's like This is the first episode. Last episode I didn't love because I just it didn't hold up to the standard that was set by the craziness of those first two episodes. This episode had some of that craziness, but I also felt for the first time I was starting to nitpick things about the show. And I started to feel it chapter 2 vibes of like certain things are going on too long, certain storylines don't seem to be progressing in the way that I had hoped or thought that they might. So I stuff that I liked, a lot of stuff that I liked, but I'm also starting to get into like nitpicky mode.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I understand. It, uh, it's tough when you're making a character have no fear whatsoever, and you're putting them in the context of where, like, they kind of have to have fear for the sake of the audience, right? Like, the audience has to know that a situation is dangerous, and so you use actors, right? Actors help bring people into that moment to experience it. So it's tough because he's supposed to not have the ability to be afraid, and yeah, he is kind of strongly reacting to things. I get it. I kind of noticed that too. I kind of was going in that direction.
I mean,
And you actually
you can
really, what's that?
you can do things where he reacts in a way where maybe like his lack of fear is perceived to be a lack of empathy, and maybe Charlotte, his wife, gets mad at him. Maybe the kid thinks his dad doesn't care about him because he's not reacting as like a super scared nervous father would to a
Yeah,
situation like that. uh Maybe he comes in, and instead of being afraid, he's just angry and he's like looking to fight the bad, and he like scares his kid, like instead of helping him. Like I thought there's other ways of doing like the scenes that they had in this episode.
yeah,
I thought there were other ways of doing them that would have
yeah.
made more sense for the character.
Yeah, well, okay. Now you got me kind of contradicting myself because I was saying like it's a return to form. It was great, but now you got me on the nitpicking train too. Because one thing that I actually had a really big problem with, and we're gonna talk about Leroy and his fear in a second. This connects to it. It's the idea of like things happening for the sake of the plot that like doesn't really make sense or doesn't like add up, right? So far with this show, we've seen specific kids being targeted by it or Pennywise or whatever, and we haven't seen like other random kids be targeted yet. So when we have this great sequence with Lily, where she's going to be set up for almost like a Carrie style mass embarrassment in front of the whole cafeteria, her friend is stuck in this situation. Her friend with the glasses, she's stuck in the situation of, do I, go along with this prank and be with the cool girls, or do I tell my friend who's about to humiliate herself, right? And try to stop her from humiliating herself. And then that's the time that Pennywise or it decides to strike. And I felt like that was too much of a convenience. Like it wasn't like Deus Ex Machina, where like, something happens that's positive that like saves the day. I mean, Lily essentially was saved from embarrassment, but then you get this like truly, truly fucking disturbing sequence where it's like I don't know, snail or slugs like eye stalks come out of this little girl's eyes, and really excellent acting from a child actor. Like the noises that she was making as she was struggling with these things in her eyes and like trying to cut them out of her eyes, like super, super disturbing stuff. I it left an impression on me, but it just kind of felt like, why is it choosing to attack right now? Is it because she's in this emotional state right now and it like senses it, and she's in a bathroom so it's near like pipes and stuff? Okay, but it felt like too
Yeah.
much of a stretch.
My question with that scene, and again, you're selling the depravity of that scene. Like it was uncomfortable to watch. It was disgusting. It was gross. It was all the things that you want from this show. But also, like Lily is the one being targeted by it.
Right.
And it just felt like, it feels like, again, the lore that has been set up is that it targets you, it makes you scared, so that it like marinates marinates your fear, and
Right.
then once you're good and afraid, he attacks you and kills you. And this kind of felt like this little girl who we have not seen a single moment of her dealing with an entity at all, kind of like off to the side gets like attacked by it. I didn't know it had those powers. Like, can it just like point its finger at a random kid, snap its fingers, and make like that kid imagine horrible things? Can it make it, like, I don't know, and it didn't, it felt like it didn't fit with everything that we have come to accept from these movies and from the the fiction,
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I haven't finished the book. I started reading the book a while ago. I didn't get very far, maybe like 20%. But from the miniseries and the movies, it always seemed like it was a visual thing. Like you would always see scary stuff. You maybe would even feel it, but I didn't know it could like alter your body, right? Now
Yeah.
you could say like, maybe it doesn't alter her body, like maybe those stalks just kind of form around her body, like it doesn't change her body, but that's kind of stretching it, you know? And so like that was one nitpick I had, and then the other nitpick, just to go along with this as well, is once again like this kind of convenient timing, right? Because you have to see him with Leroy and his son. They go fishing, and the son freaks out, and that's what you were mentioning before. How like he's scared for his son, he runs back to get him. But it's like if he hadn't done that, essentially like it would have killed that boy. And I know like we have to like save him because he's going to be one of the main characters, but it just kind of felt like why is this thing attacking now? And you know, like to me, it's like the way that Derry seems to work in the movies, at least, and maybe it's the same in the book, is that it's like it attacks when kids are like isolated, away from adults and stuff, and that if there are adults there, they don't care about the kid. Like they're just like indifferent to the kid. So like it might be like a librarian that doesn't care about a kid, or like a person that works in the pharmacy that doesn't care about a kid. But here, his father's right there to come save him. So I felt like it just didn't add up. I think we're getting a lot of that this episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can explain the like the main kids' parents caring because they're outsiders. They're not native to Derry. One of the things, like, obviously you see in the original miniseries and in the movies is, like you said, the adults always are they're either mean to the kids or completely indifferent to the kids. They don't listen to the kids at all. And you do see that a little bit with a lot of the natives. The even like the nice butcher, like, was like, oh, boys will be boys, while they're like kicking the shit out of a kid.
Right.
So that's something that you definitely see. And I also think it's interesting that like a lot of the characters treat the outsiders differently, because it's like they don't know them yet.
Yes.
um but I yeah, I like I said, like, I liked, there were a lot of parts of this episode I liked the a lot of the stuff with Dick Halloran in this episode I really liked, like getting to
Mhm.
see how he uses the Shining to like infiltrate people's, and like really seeing, and I know this is a stretch to say this given like the movie The Shining, but like seeing the dark side of The Shining, like, and how the Shining can be used as like a government operated tool to
Yeah.
access information that people don't want to give,
Right.
and how he effectively tortures that Native American guy. I thought was like in a really intense scene.
Yeah.
I really like that part of it. I also I'm a sucker for, like I said, I'm a sucker for the lore. I loved the all the flashback Native American stuff, of like the kid telling the story of, how, it crash landed and they have to find the pieces and those pieces of rock, and you almost expect now, and I swear to God, I was expecting them to do a dissolve, where they have that scene at the end where you have the smoke of the fires over where they buried the like the broken pieces of the ship or contain the entity. And I thought that there was going to be this dissolve where the forest, the western woods, would just slowly fade away and
Yeah.
Derry would rise up, and you'd
Right.
see, because that's obviously the way, like Derry was built on the western woods. And like even that last shot of, like, this show does a really good job of like sucking you into the next episode, because it's
Yeah.
like the last shot is like, oh, fucking house on Neibolt Street, all right, here we go, like
Right.
we're going into the house, we're going down into the tunnels, like it is coming. And it's like, we said last week we thought this was going to be the episode where we got like full on Pennywise. And I
Right.
I almost admire the show for being so, like, the way it's pulled back. I saw one video that was like criticizing the criticism of the show, where people, like, how come we haven't seen Pennywise yet? And they're like, well, that just shows you haven't understood. You never read the book and you don't understand what it really is. It's not a clown. It's an entity from space that takes the shape of a clown. So like the demon baby is it. The pickle jar monster is it. And Pennywise is a version of it. I feel like when I thought we would get a little bit more overt Pennywise. I thought we would like see Bill Skarsgård by this point. We're 4 episodes in.
Yeah.
Um, I have to think that now that they've showed us the house on Neibolt Street, that is coming. Like
Right.
probably in the next episode, but at this point, I don't know. I probably wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, did you read the Dark Tower, like all the Dark Tower books, or no?
I read the seven. Yeah,
Yeah, and there's like Win Through the Keyhole, which is sort of like a little side story, right? But okay, good, good, good. I'm glad you did that, because now we're gonna do a little deep dive Stephen King conversation. Hopefully, our viewers that are fans of Stephen King can kind of chime in. Maybe you can bring your wife in on this one too. But like, I'm not exactly sure what the fuck it is, and I always get a little confused with the Man in Black from the Dark Tower, because it's like, is the Man in Black Randall Flagg, or is it like sometimes it's like the Man in Black is like an alternate version of Randall Flagg. There's a thing in the end of the Dark Tower, spoilers, in the tower itself that's like a Pennywise type creature that shows up. But like, what was really intriguing with that flashback sequence, which we should go into in depth, was the Native American like woman that confronts the creature. She finds this like man who almost looks like a priest. He's got like a black robe on, he's got long hair, and I'm like, oh, is that kind of like the Man in Black? Like what is that? And when you talk about Bill Skarsgård and Pennywise, I feel like, I mean, you couldn't really have that Pennywise image at that point with the Native Americans, because like he's more of a modern looking clown. Like maybe you'd have like, I don't know, jesters or something at that time period, but there's no like equivalent to Pennywise in that time period. So that's why that creature looks like this weird robed guy. But I was like, is this like a Dark Tower reference? I don't know. I was like super fucking intrigued. I loved when like the fucking lights, the whatever, the dead lights or whatever, like floated down towards his head at one point, like when he went to go confront the Native American woman. Like I love that fucking sequence. But I just kind of want I want to go do some research into Stephen King lore and see exactly what the fuck it is and how it's connected to the Dark Tower. Do you know any of that stuff?
I I don't think it is expressly connected, but the idea of like the like I feel like there was a turtle that guarded one of the beams in the Dark Tower,
Right.
and um it is like an ancient alien entity that like they said in this episode, it crash landed on Earth, and it's just been here festering for, you know, millions of years or thousands of years, whatever they say on the show. um but like Stephen King's work, especially when he gets into almost like the cosmic horror, it, you know, there's alternate realities, there's alternate dimensions, you know, there are doors that, you know, there's doors on the beach that take you to New York, there's doors on the beach that take you, you know, into the mind of the man in black right before he pushes, you know, Odetta in front of a train and pushes, you know, Jake in front of a car. And like I'm sure there's crossover. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like as soon as we're done recording, I'm gonna probably go in the kitchen and do some more cooking or do some more food prepping, and I'll probably find like a 25-minute YouTube video about Stephen King lore to watch as I'm doing all that.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I don't think it is the Man in Black.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure maybe there is a similarity there because of the joined universes and the cosmic horror, and you know,
Yeah.
uh, but
Well, let's
even
talk about that.
the
Go
name
ahead.
of this episode was like, you know, I forgot the name of this episode, but it had like a um it like referenced like cosmic entities and like outer space. Like,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I remember seeing
I'm
that
looking
title
it
too.
up now. I'm looking it up now.
Well, while you're looking it up, let me just kind of get this part of the conversation going. I really love that fucking sequence where they go into the Native American kid's mind. It's like so well done. It was giving me Doctor Sleep vibes, like with all the stuff with like Rebecca Ferguson and The Shining and stuff. Um, like I love the fact that it goes back to a flashback and he's a child, and then he's basically explaining this whole lore. It's like a really long sequence, like 20 minutes at least, of like it mythology. And I was eating that shit up with a spoon. And for a minute there, I kind of forgot about Dick Halloran. I knew he was there watching, but I just love the fucking moment when it like glitches in his memory. Like his aunt is talking, and then her face kind of freezes up, and her eye closes, and then Dick Halloran stands up behind her, and it's like he's right in the camera, and he's really like in your face and smiling. I fucking loved that so much. That's like so Stephen King, and there's a lot of shit like that in Doctor Sleep, like when Rebecca Ferguson's in the supermarket and she has like that vision in the supermarket, or like she meditates on top of the camper and she's sort of like floating above the earth. I love that shit. It's so fucking good. It feels just like it's out of Stephen King's head. And then like I was going to ask you about that sequence too. When the Native American woman, who's like the leader of the tribe, the one that's going after the entity, when she confronts it and it's that priest, he like kind of picks her up, and then like a fucking baby comes out of his chest. It's kind of like Quato or whatever the fuck it is from
Yeah,
Total Recall,
yeah.
right? And I'm like, is that the fucking baby? Like, are they going like okay, I have two theories about this, Danny. I want to hear your take on it. One theory is that the baby that's in the car in the first episode, it's the same thing that's in the thing's chest, and that's essentially what the fucking entity is physically. It's just like the size of an infant. It's like in It Chapter 2 when they stop being afraid of it and it like shrivels up, and it's like, you know, almost like a little infant in itself. Like that's what I think the entity really is. That's theory one. Theory two is that like it goes through some kind of process when it feeds, and it essentially like gives birth to itself. And so like that's what the baby was in the beginning of this season. That's what the baby was in the guy's chest. What do you think about that?
Uh, I mean, yeah, that it all makes a lot of sense. I I'm just poking around on HBO. The name of the episode, by the way, was um, "The Great Swirling Apparatus of Our Planet's Function."
Oh yeah, that's a mouthful. Okay.
Yeah. You obviously are watching this on HBO, right?
Yeah, HBO Max. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have, if you scroll to on it, Welcome to Derry. If you go to extras, they have a mid-season trailer that looks insane,
Okay.
and Pennywise is all over it. Um, and they have a lot of the Bill Skarsgård as like the guy who works at the carnival, which we saw in It Chapter 2. They have a lot of that stuff in it to start. Um, they also have some, like, 7 minute behind the scenes, and they also have, like, I didn't even realize this, and we're covering the show, and I should have realized this. They have hour-long podcast episodes on HBO Max. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, we should check
So
it
I'm
out.
probably going to do just watch that while I go in the kitchen after we're done talking.
Yes.
Because now I'm like super excited, and I just watched I just had on right above my camera view the mid-season trailer, and I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really, like, I think they're, I started off a little negative with this episode, but just looking at how much HBO Max has about this, I'm like a little now. I'm a lot more excited to like finish this off. Also,
Yeah.
I don't. This is a spoiler, but in the trailer, the little girl Marge, I think her name is, the one who, like, with her eyes, who like loses an eye in this episode. She like joins the gang,
Okay. Okay.
which
Yeah.
I think is a like, the fact that she doesn't die, the fact that maybe she's the reason why Lily doesn't end up going back to the mental institution, and is allowed to like stay in school. Maybe like that plays into it, but it
Yeah.
looks as if that girl ends up joining their crew.
Yeah. It makes sense, right? She's definitely going to be a believer after that fucking horrible experience that she had. My last point that I wanted to make from my end was that, like, well, actually, I had 2 points. There was one other nitpicky thing I had. Um, I like the mom character a lot, the woman that's married to Leroy. Her name's Charlotte, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I like her a lot. I like that actress. I like her whole vibe. But I got a little bit annoyed by her speech where she was talking. I mean, there was one line in her speech that I really loved. She was like, I'll get MLK, JFK, RFK, and any other FKs, I can find. Or so I like that line, but her kind of like, I'm a civil rights like superhero. It was like a little bit too much. It's kind of like in Avengers Endgame when all the women characters come together to like protect Captain Marvel or whatever, or Spider Man. uh it was like too much, you know what I'm saying? Did you feel that way or no?
I thought she. I don't know. I liked that scene. Um, I like that scene. I also, I do. I, I like that scene because, to me, that is keeping up with like a constant theme of the book. Which is, there's obviously a ton of racism in the book. Obviously Michael, the Mike from the Losers Club, is a black kid who is picked on because he's black. The Bowers gang is, incredibly racist. Um, the book starts, and It Chapter 2 starts with the that scene of the gay couple at the carnival, and the gay couple gets bullied, which leads to one of them being thrown in the water and being caught and killed by Pennywise. And so, like, bigotry and hatred play a huge role in the books, and also in like a lot of Stephen King work. Like he always he's really good at like playing you know, incorporating like what feels like accurate levels of like bigotry and racism, and you know, having the heroes be on the right side of that. So I didn't necessarily what I liked about that scene is that it's the cops are doing such like a good attempt at making it seem like they're not being racist in a way. And I think like I like that she was able to call them out on that stuff. Um and I it it got to like that was a point where I was like, if we're spending all this time here, we need to get to a point. And for me, it did that because it got to the point of getting him to admit that he was with a white woman, which to me was the only logical explanation for why you wouldn't just come out and say where you were in, you know, when you're faced with the murder of three children,
Right.
and going on death row at Shawshank.
Right.
So it got to a point for me. I feel like had that scene gone on 30 more seconds, maybe I'd feel the same way as you. But
Yeah.
like it got me to where I wanted to be, and I guess the ends justified the means.
Okay. 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 All right. Well, then that brings us to like the last thing I wanted to talk about too, which was like all the Native American stuff I liked a lot. But then I've only seen it chapter 2 once. And obviously it takes more from the book than the 1990s miniseries because there's a whole side plot where they're trying to find this like Native American artifact they think is going to kill Pennywise. And I guess that's like what they think that dagger is the weird thing about this episode was it made me want to watch it chapter 2 again, which I didn't think I'd ever want to.
Maybe like with your hand on the fast forward, or maybe
Yeah,
like
maybe.
maybe you know like what do you call it? Like an old, if you have the DVD or the Blu-ray, and you could like do like chapter select and just jump ahead to
Right,
the
right, right,
chapters.
right. Of course. But
Yep.
so like, what are they looking for in it chapter 2? Because they are looking for some kind of Native American artifact, right?
Well, isn't it like the thing that they put? They're supposed to. The whole point. The whole thing with it, chapter two, is that there's seven kids, and they're supposed to find. They go on seven side quests to find seven tokens to put them in this like Native American like bucket thing that's supposed to like collect their tokens. And I don't know, I don't remember enough. Like I just remember thinking at that point, oh my god, how is there still an hour left of this movie?
Right, right, right. Yeah, I do. I might have to go back and watch it, but I think I might actually just look up some YouTube videos on like what is Pennywise. I'll probably like look up some of those after we stop recording. But was there anything else you wanted to say about this episode?
I mean, no, I like, I think that the little group of kids is a good group of kids. I think they're distinct enough in their personalities. You know, um, it, to me, it does have the trappings of like every it version, which is like when the kids are on screen, I'm enjoying the show, I think, more than when the adults are on the screen. And it
Right,
was like that in 1990. It's like that in 2017 and 2019, and it's like that now. I think that's just the nature of the beast. But I'm intrigued with the adult characters here in a way that I haven't been in any of the it adaptations, where I'm like really like interested in what they're looking for, and this whole thing with these pillars, and finding the shards of that rock, and trying to contain the evil, and and I'll tell you the one thing that I will give this show a lot of credit for. I don't even remember that I'm watching a prequel while I'm watching this. We just
yeah,
finished talking we just did a recording on Predator Badlands, and we're talking about how there's so much IP out there, and there's sequels and remakes and all these things. Welcome to Derry is a prequel series to movies and books that we have read and watched. Um, me since I was 8 years old. I watched that It miniseries when it was on in 1990. It scared the shit out of me.
Same
Um,
here.
and um, I'll never forget. I met Tommy Lee Wallace at a horror convention in New Jersey. He was the director. He's one of like the John Carpenter crew. He was like one of John Carpenter's. He did. What was his job with Carpenter? He worked.
Interesting.
I don't know. I don't know if he was one of his DPs, but like he was just on set all the time, and he worked with him, and he maybe he was the editor. I'm not sure, but he directed the It miniseries. And when I met him, and I said to him, I was like, I'm sure you get this a lot, but like you totally fucked up my childhood. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, It. I said I was 8 years old. He goes, oh. He goes, well, blame your parents for that. They're the ones that
Yeah,
let you watch it. And I was
yeah,
like,
exactly.
fuck yeah, Tommy Lee Wallace. Um, so like it has been something in my life since I was 8 years old. 35 years later, I'm watching a prequel to it, and I'm like kind of oblivious to the fact that it's a prequel while I'm
Right,
watching it, which I think is good. It doesn't feel like, because usually the big problem with prequels, especially in horror, where you're like, let's show you how this unkillable character was created. Okay, well, I know how this is going to end. He's not going to die. You
right.
know, uh, usually there's like the obviousness of an ending, and I don't feel like this show has that, which is a positive.
Totally agree, man. I 1000% agree, actually. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. I'm really digging this show. I'm certainly digging it more than the Talamasca, you know? I think we're kind of fortunate because there's a lot of shit right now for us to cover. Speaking of which, what would you say we have coming up on the channel?
Well, if you prefer shows that aren't as good, we are covering the Talamasca, The Secret Order. We'll
Right.
be doing episodes 4 and 5 later this week. We have an episode 1 review, and then an episodes 2 and 3 review. We just did a review of Predator Badlands, which I'm assuming will be up on the channel tomorrow. But so by the time you watch this, um, and then yeah, it's a bunch of, we got a bunch of short reviews of horror movies. Sometime in the next week, I'm sure we're going to be on here uh going at it like Cisco and Ebert talking about Oz Perkins' new movie Keeper.
Yeah.
um and yeah, that like you said, it's a really good time for us because we were just talking about how it's 2025. We had a pretty great Alien show on TV. We have a pretty great Predator movie in theaters. Um, Even the horror movies we disagree with are like pretty cool and original, and they're out in theaters now. Plus, we have multiple really cool shows on various streaming sites and networks. So yeah, this is, we went through a period this year where we were like, boy, what the fuck are we gonna cover this week? I don't know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now we're like, man, we need to like schedule multiple times during the week because we have so much shit to review.
Right, right, yeah. We have an abundance of content to cover. But I'm enjoying it, man. I'm enjoying covering all this shit. Maybe not Mosca, but I'm enjoying all this shit. So,
Yeah,
yeah, guys.
I haven't watched episodes 4 and 5 yet, so we'll see what happens.
Ooh, yeah, I don't think I have either. Oh well. But anyway, you guys have been great. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and you can turn your big slimy eye stalks to us next time.